What I consider culture and what I grew up with was church, Sunday church all day, Sunday dinners, family. You know, all of that was a part of my culture. That's what I grew up. That's what I knew Black folks to do in the United States. You know, that I could say everybody participated in that. That's no longer. So I want to hear from you about the culture, because I do know that New Orleans is one of those places that have kept up with what you just called tradition. But I would say that that's culture too. But the way you made it sound, or the way you spoke about it, it was relative to Africa. More so than American.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I know I asked about Katrina, but I'm going off Katrina right now because I'm looking for some answers myself. So tell us about that. What do you think that that's more an African culture or American, or do you know of some American? Tell me about some American culture.
New Orleans culture, and the New Orleans culture is created in Congo Square. So when you have those let's talk about New Orleans during slavery. So New Orleans was not under the United States of America until 1803 or something, whenever we were purchased. Our slavery period is under the French and the Spanish, partly under the Spanish, but under the French. The French had a practice of allowing African slaves or enslaved Africans Sundays off. And because they had Sundays off, this is a unique practice throughout all of southern United States. So because they had Sundays off, not only did they have Sundays off, they were also allowed to congregate in a place called Congo Square. So you have Africans from Angola, obviously Africans from the Congo, you have Africans from which is now Nigeria and Mali, all congregating in this place, able to keep some of those traditions alive. Whereas in other parts of the South, they were not allowed to congregate. They were not allowed Sundays off. They were still working. So in Congo Square, you get a mixture of all of this West African culture. You get the drum, and the drum is the most important aspect of what happened, because these people didn't speak the same languages when they're coming to Congo Square, but that drum spoke for them. That drum is African universal, right? So they hit that drum, and again, they created culture. They began to marry in Congo Square. So now, 200 years later, whatever have you, you see these traditions that we do that we now define as New Orleans culture, but it's directly rooted to our West African traditions. For anybody that's watching, look up a New Orleans second line funeral, where we carry our caskets through the street. Then look up a Nigerian street funeral. I don't know if that's the exact name of it, where they're carrying we brought these traditions with us, and we have maintained those. So is it an African culture? What it is now, we define it as a New Orleans culture, but we recognize that it is deeply rooted in West Africa. Gumbo comes from West Africa. Jambalaya is a variation of Jollof, West Africa. The dance we do at the second line is called the Dance of Jubilee. It comes from West Africa. All of this is, so we call it New Orleans culture, but it's really, and then there's other influences, obviously. You know, because of the French, because of the Spanish, and because of Native Americans. New Orleans was a place where we were able to escape into the bayous with the assistance of Native Americans. So if you watch our second line, this is something, it's a great video by, his name is Flag Boy, I think it's Giz, and he tells the story. He's talking about the second line traditions and the different tribes we have, whatever have you. But the video itself shows, the African escaping, being welcomed, or actually first being kind of some tension between him and the Native American, and then how the Native American assisted us. So in our second line traditions, particularly Super Sundays, you'll see these handmade suits with all of these beads, and it takes them all year to do it takes them a year to do a suit. And after they wear that suit once or twice, they end up destroying it. Right? But on the suit, it tells these stories of how, depending on, but a lot of times you'll see the stories of the Native Americans. They're dressed with all of these feathers and stuff. But the suit actually tells a story about how the Native American assisted. And so New Orleans is one of those places when Black folks say, I got Indian in my family, like we really do.
No, I can definitely see it. I can definitely see that. But I'm actually struggling. What is now the American culture?
So
the Afro-American culture.
So to your question, when I look at like what has happened with African American culture, I think that we can point to one genre of music in particular that has impacted Black America in some of the most devastating ways, and that is rap music. Now, I know somebody's listening and going to say, well, all rap ain't bad. But we're talking about the vast majority of this music and how it has impacted our, I call it an axiological war. It has impacted our aesthetics and our ethics. We no longer know what's right or wrong, what is ethical, what is unethical, what is attractive, what is unattractive, what is acceptable, what is unacceptable.
Yeah.
It has eroded our understanding of these things. That's
sad to me.
And so now that has become culture. We used to have cultural leaders. We used to have people like Dr. King or Jesse Jackson. Now our cultural leaders are Jay-Z or T.I., and that's problematic. No other race of people has entertainers as their spokesmen and as their leaders.
Like I said, it's lost.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. I know some people don't want to hear that, but no. That's sad for that to be our culture. Yeah. To be known for that. Yeah. That's very sad. So I'm done with that.
Okay, because I was about to tell you another story.
Don't tell me nothing else. If hip-hop got to be my culture, I'm done.
I think what happened was, so there was the Sharpsville massacre here in South Africa. And I don't want my South African family to say I'm
they're going to tell you you're wrong.
I don't know if it was the 60s or the 70s. No, it had to be in the 60s because Dr. King is alive. So this is before 67 because Dr. King dies April 4th, 1968. So I think the Sharpsville massacre was in 67, and Dr. King writes this letter to the president condemning or asking the United States to come out and condemn what just took place in South Africa, right? Again, this is a long unity between African Americans and South Africans. But in that letter, he also mentions the plight of the American Negro, and he says, they're telling our South African brothers that they need to go, I think, to the United Nations and, bring charges against the South African government. And he basically kind of sends a veiled threat to the president based on maybe the American Negro should then, or you wouldn't want the American Negro to do that, basically to kind of air out your dirty laundry. Now, why is that important? Because the presentation or the reputation of Black America throughout the world at that time, that we were those people that you were talking about earlier. We were churchgoers. We were good people. We were peaceful. We wasn't gangsters and thugs. So we had a level of credibility with the world,
right?
A level of capital, social capital with the world, that if you see us getting hit with those hose pipes, the world is like, I can't believe they're doing that to them good church-going Black folk. Right. But that ain't our reputation no more. Hip-hop has made us into thugs and gangsters, and whether we are thugs or gangsters or not, that is what is being presented to the rest of the world. Now, if there's an extermination policy, who's going to come to the aid of a bunch of gangsters and thugs? Bless you.
Excuse me. It's time for me to sneeze. You're exactly right, and that's so sad to me because someone said it to me. No, hip hop is our culture. Everybody wants to dress like us. They want to. You listen to our music. They want. I'm like that's not what's culture. I mean that. Yeah. I want to be known for more than that. Right. I want to contribute more than that. Not only that, we've lost on the other end too, because even in our dress, even in the wigs that we wear, even the aesthetics that we're trying to create, it's all European. We are lost. And you're here now. And I just think I really relate more to the African people. And we're trying to bridge the gap. And I feel like that's one of the reasons, unknowingly, that's what we're actually doing. Yeah. And here reminds me of that, because here reminds me of the 80s. Yeah. I could just hear 80s music playing. Sometimes we're in Tasha's, certain places where you eat it, you hear it. And I'm like, this is such the 80s. It's almost like, wow. And then you see some kids ride on the back of a truck. You know you're in the 80s then. I'm like, this is the 80s right here. We done bought ourselves 40 years. In the past, yeah. So I love that part of being here. I love that part of being here because it reminds me so much of the 80s. And that too makes me feel like there's still
Hope.
A lot of help and hope for being here.
Yeah.
I know I listened to you both, and I heard y'all say, you you don't want to ever impose your thoughts or the things that you grow up with on other people. But if you do it in love, and it's received that way, it's okay. Because when I hear about just coming from a place where single motherhood is over 60%, and I come here and I'm gonna read these stats to you all because I just didn't think, because y'all listen, my idea of South Africa as the continent is definitely, we still dealing with morals. People are still believing in God. They're still walking that straight path. This my thoughts. Yeah. But then I get to do some research, y'all. And it says here, according to the stats, 3.8 million single mothers in South Africa alone. 3.8 million? That's a lot of people. Yeah. And it goes on to say this is more than 40% of the mothers in the country. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm back in the 80s. I can help some folks. Maybe I can speak to some ladies and like, look, this is what you do. This is how you do. You're supposed to be covered. Let's go back. Stop. And, I don't know if I can. I don't even know pretty much where to begin. I'm just beginning here. Right. But I'm thinking, and then you know what? I got some pushback because I mentioned this before, and I got some pushback. They said something like, well, how you know South Africa want to be saved? I'm like, wow. How about that? So I see us traveling down that path of the U.S. just skipping.